The history of Princess Adesuwa and Ogie. Beauty can be a blessing and at the same time a curse. The beauty of Adesuwa cannot be expressed in words. She was called the Queen of Beauty, and some claimed she was a spirit, while others said she belonged to the gods. From different descriptions of Adesuwa, it is obvious that she was the most beautiful woman that ever lived in Benin Kingdom. She was described as the beauty queen of Benin Kingdom in the 17th century. The word beautiful was an understatement to describe the look of Adesuwa, the daughter of Ezomo Nuzebu. She glows like morning star. As a child, she was desired by all who beheld her as a young maiden. No young man could escape her charms and courage. Adesuwa had everything she wanted. Her father, Chief Ezomo Odia, was the richest man in the kingdom. Knowing her beauty, she had little regards for anyone. She was full of herself, and pride and arrogance were her close companion. Her fate was tied to her beauty. The same beauty that brought her so much fame and honor also led her to her early grave. There are so many accounts concerning the fate that transpired in the short lifetime of Princess Adesuwa. However, this study critically examines the various available records in order to write a clear history. Her story is quite stimulating and fascinating. As earlier stated, she was the loved daughter of Chief Ezomo Odia, and the second Ezomo after the title became hereditary in the days of Ezomo Ehemna, his father. The news of her beauty got to the palace of Oba Akengbuda, who wasted no time in making his love intentions known to her. She had several noble suitors, but was not in haste to get married to anyone. She eventually gave in to the love proposal of Oba Akengbuda. The news of Adesuwa's beauty and romance with the king had gone far and wide. Plan and preparation for marriage was going on. Adesuwa is said to have been a very industrious young lady who was very good at what she did. She sold goats at the market. Her beauty and father's words did not make her lazy. This was the reason she gained lots of respect from people in the kingdom. On a particular day in Benin Kingdom, about the year 1752 AD, the Enogi, Duke of Oboro Kingdom, paid a visit to the Ezomo, who was the defense minister of Benin. This was during his investiture as the new Eze or Obi, King or Duke of Oboro Kingdom, which is located at the eastern part of the present-day Delta State in Nigeria. In those days, it was the Oba of Benin that had the authority to invest such leaders as the kingdom was under its political jurisdiction. It is strongly believed that one of the children of the Oba of Benin founded the kingdom. Ezomo and Ogiobo, as he was fondly called, were very good friends. They have fought along each other during several war expeditions in the defense and expansion of the kingdom. When they met again at the palace of the Oba, Ezomo invited him to his palace at Uzebu in order to celebrate his new position with him. This visit of Ogioboro to Ezomo's palace changed the story of Princess Adesuwa and turned her life around. The Ezomo, in his joy to welcome his old friend, quickly called his wife to bring kola nuts for his bosom friend. Ogiobo, his first wife Idia, who was the mother of Adesuwa, asked Adesuwa to present the kola nuts before Ogiobo. The moment he set his eyes on Adesuwa, the king got stunned at the beauty that was before him. He was carried away by the charming beauty and seductive elegance of Adesuwa, Ezomo's daughter. It is recorded that for some minutes he was confused and lacked words to express his feelings. He immediately fell in love with her. An account of the story said he professed his love or her right there and asked for her consent in marriage. But Adesuwa, who was very proud and rude, refused his love with great contempt and insolence. She claimed it was forbidden for her to marry a bush ruler as the Obi, who does not attain the equal rank with the least of her father's slaves. The Obi was very infuriated and annoyed by this reply and heaped on him by Adesuwa. But he hid his anger as a stratagem. He bought many goats from Adesuwa on credit and promised to pay the money. But after a long period, he refused to pay back his debt. Instead, he started using charm to call her to Oboro Kingdom in order for him to woo her to become his wife. In another account of the story, the Ogioboro did not immediately propose to her. He asked Chief Ezomo who the beauty damsel was. The Ezomo told him she was one of his daughters. Ogioboro quickly acknowledged that he had never seen a beauty like that in all his life. He told the Ezomo that he knew that Adesuwa was with a rich father like him would be a spoiled girl, having no use in domestic activities. The Ezomo told him that he was wrong in his assumption, that Adesuwa, his daughter, was a very hard-working and independent young lady, that she even sells goods at the market. Immediately, Ogioboro heard that, he quickly hatched a subtle plot to woo and subsequently marry her, come what may. He quickly demanded to buy a goat from Adesuwa. He claimed that he perceives she sells better goats due to her beauty. He bought the goat on credit and promised to send the money the next day through his servant from Oboro. This was his plan to bring Adesuwa to Oboro in order to make known to her his plan and intentions. Along the line, the center refused to hold and things fell apart. At this junction, it is very important to understand that Ogioboro was not an ordinary man. He was a soothsayer, warrior of great skills and supernatural ability, and is well known for the use of his magic sword that could defy any charm or magic. But this great and powerful king fell into the web of love. Immediately he got home to his palace at Oboro. He quickly called for his personal diviner to come and consult for him. He told him of his encounter with the beautiful daughter of Ezomo, Adesuwa. He said he had set traps on how to bring her to Oboro and marry her. He told the diviner he bought gold from Adesuwa on credit and promised to pay her by the next day. His plan is to use the debt to bring Adesuwa to Oboro. He said he knows that his friend, the Ezomo, will like to pay for him on the account of his failure to pay, but he waits the diviner Adesuwa refused to accept payment of anyone who want to pay on his behalf. Later insists on collecting money back from the one who bought the goat from her. He should call her spirit and bring her to Oboro to come and collect her debt. Nothing should by any means stop her from coming to Oboro. The native doctor said there was no problem, but he needed to consult the gods first and find out what they had to say concerning the issue. After consulting the gods, he warned that Ogiobo should forget about Adesuwa. He said the gods have revealed that if she comes to Oboro, the end will be very tragic. This will lead to great disaster, and many lives will be lost, including the king's life, which was in danger. The king refused to listen to the advice of his diviner. He said he was ready to lose his life as far as he could see Adesuwa again and make her his wife. To him, his life is worth nothing anymore as far as he can make Adesuwa his wife. He was engrossed in the fairy tale of marrying the most beautiful woman that ever lived in Benin. He said he was ready to go to any length to make her his wife. He was a born warrior and was not afraid of any war or anything that would come after it. He made the diviner to start working on her immediately, or he will face the wrath of the king. At the palace of the Ezomo, Adesuwa had become very angry and restless. She told her father of how she waited for his friend throughout the day at the market, and he refused to send her money as he promised. She threatened that by noon the next day, if Ogiobo doesn't return her money, she will go and meet him at his palace in Oboro to pay her what he owed her. The Ezomo said there was no need for that, and that he was ready to pay her the money for the goat. Adesuwa immediately refused. She said it was not her father that bought goat from her, and he cannot pay her, that it was the stupid Ogiobo that must pay her back the money. The Ezomo was surprised at the sudden change in Adesuwa's attitude. He called her mother to speak to her, but she refused to listen to anyone. Even when the mother offered to pay the debt, she refused to accept the money, insisting that Ogiobo must pay back the debt himself. With a new change of attitude, the parents realized that something had gone wrong. Early in the morning the next day, Adesuwa was already preparing a journey to Oboro. Her father at this point knew that Ogiobo was using charm to call his daughter, and there was nothing he could do about it, because the spirit of Adesuwa had already answered the diviner at Oboro. They quickly called their own native doctor to consult the gods and find out if there was still any solution to the case of Adesuwa. They were told that nothing can be done to stop her, as Ogiobo had already called her spirit and she would die if not allowed to answer the call at Oboro. The other problem was that he might not come back alive if allowed to go to Oboro. The only thing he could do was to allow her go and use divination to make her miss her way on the road to Oboro, and then she cannot return home after trying to answer the call of her soul. They also decided to protect her with some charms that would prevent cutlass and gunpowder from penetrating her body. A maid servant was made to travel with her in the spirit and make it impossible for Adesuwa to find her way to Oboro Kingdom. Princess Adesuwa started the journey that after the relationship between Oboro Kingdom and Benin Kingdom. When she got to the path that led to the Oboro, the road became seven. This mystery was done by her handmaid, who was with her but was not visible, due to the leaf the diviner at the Adesuwa palace gave her to place in her mouth. After getting confused on what path to take, she later decided to return home. At this point, the diviner at Oboro noticed she was turning back home. He quickly added more things to make sure she found her way to Oboro, because his own life was on the line. At last, through the manipulations of Ogiobu and his diviner, she found her way to Oboro Kingdom. At her entrance to the town, everyone who saw her was amazed at her beauty, as they had never seen anyone as beautiful as Adesuwa. Some feared she was a spirit. Adesuwa finally located the palace of Ogiobo. The diviner packed his property and quickly left the palace, but he too was also amazed at the beauty of this damsel. No wonder his master was ready to bear any consequences just to get her love and attention. I think at this point that Ogioboro should have also made charm to make the young lady love him, because Adesuwa hated every bit of him. She was roughing in anger when she got there and immediately demanded for her money. Ogioboro tried to use every soothing words to calm the angry princess down. All was to no avail, as sight kept raining insults on the king in his throne. The king did not mind an insult. He pleaded with her that he planned to send the money the next day, because the servant that was to bring the money to her fell ill. He, however, promised to make up for the pains and stress he had made her go through on the journey to Oboro Kingdom. Adesuwa was not interested in his apologies. She called him a poor debtor that could not pay for a mere goods, planning to make up for her pains. All she needed now was her money, and nothing from a king that was less than a Benin slave. Ogiobo was getting angry now at her continuous insults, but he swallowed all the insults in the name of love. It told her she was the only one that could raise such insults on him like that. He drew closer and tried to profess his love for her, and she refused his love, warning him not to touch her. She keeps calling him names. She called him a crab and a wretch. The one that broke the calmest back was when she called him an uncircumcised slave. At this word, Ogioboro lost his temper and ran inside his room, took his magic sword, and tried to cut Adesuwa with it. At this, the leaf fell from Adesuwa's main mouth, and she screamed and she became visible. At first, the sword could not penetrate Adesuwa, but after Ogiobo made some incantations on his sword, and with it, he removed the head of Adesuwa and made pig's back the leaf and became invisible again and began to cry home that Ogiobo has killed Adesuwa. Another version of the story claimed it was not Ogiobo that killed Adesuwa, but the servant who became uncomfortable with the way and manner Adesuwa was insulting and humiliating their master. They got angry and slaughtered Adesuwa before the king could stop them. The conjured point is Adesuwa died in the hand of Ogioboro. Whether he did the killing himself or his servants did it is of no importance. The key point is she was called to Oboro by Ogioboro Sham and was later murdered by him or his servant. The beauty queen of Benin Kingdom and the sweetheart of Oba Akenbuda died in the hand of a mere provincial head who was not even equal to a Benin chief. His will produced nothing but trouble. This will result to big trouble for Ogiobo and his entire kingdom. It was an insult to the Benin Kingdom and the Oba. It should be noted at this point that the Benin people believed they were superior to any other ethnic group. They were very proud, and that was what gave birth to the evil body markings they had hung in order to differentiate them from all other ethnic groups. Adesuwa's maid got home to Benin and reported to her master what transpired at Ogioboro's palace. They brought sudden wailing and tears to the whole of Benin. The Ezomo ran to the Oba palace and explained to Oba Akenbuda how Ogioboro used sham to call his daughter unto sudden death. It is the debtor that killed the creditor. A meeting of the elders was immediately called, and all the elders who heard the story mourned. They wept for the beauty that was suddenly taken away from Benin. All of them came to a conclusion that Ogiobo killed Adesuwa in rebellion to Benin and must be duly punished. The Oba said he did not only desire that Oboro be conquered, he specifically demanded for the head of Ogiobo. With these conclusions, the stage was already set for another war. This time around, it was not just a mere war. It was a war against the most powerful warrior at that age. Even the chiefs acknowledged that Ogioboro was not just an ordinary warrior to be captured with ease. They knew they had to prepare both physically and spiritually in order to be able to remove his head from his neck. At Oboro, the Ogie, knowing what he had put his hand, was also preparing for war against Benin. He deployed soldiers to the Benin-Oboro boundary, and his soldiers were harassing Benin women and men going about their business outside the territory. This incident fired up zeal within the Benin army, led by 4 warlords, the Olia, Iyase, Ologbusere, and the Isogban, led different troops to the northwest, east, and southern part of Oboro Kingdom. In quick succession, they defeated all the Oboro soldiers in all the areas apart from the eastern region. Ogiobo was in charge of the east himself. The battle between Oboro and Iyase was very fierce. The Ogiobo made use of his magic sword and inflicted great defeat on the Benin soldiers. According to traditions, he was almost defeating the Iyase and his foot soldiers. They claimed he changed into all manners of beasts at different occasions. At another period, he changed into 7 people fighting and killing soldiers with his magic sword at the same time. The saving grace of the Iyase and his few remaining soldiers was that some other Benin soldiers went down to his palace and set it ablaze. With the news of his burning palace, he left the battlefront to save his burning palace. The Benin soldiers quickly used the access of Ogiobo to crush his remaining soldier at the east. They moved to the palace in order to remove his head as commanded by the Oba, but they were unable to penetrate into his palace. Again, the Benin army were defeated by Ogiobo and they returned to Benin. On consulting the oracle, the Oba was told that the only one who could subdue Ogiobo was Emokbogbe, the Enogi of Ugu, who was also known as Agbogidi. This is because Agbogidi once studied as a student of magical art and science under Ogiobo. He alone knew or how the secret to his defeat. The murder of Adesuwa was now become national issue that is demanding the efforts of everyone in the country in order to bring back glory to Benin by the defeat of Ogie. It is important to understand who Imokbagbe was. He, the Enoki of Ugu in Iyekorion, with the title of Agbohidi. He had a daring and indomitable spirit, but he was very ugly looking. He was a hunter by profession and was very keen in the killing of leopards, elephants, and other fierce animals. It was customary for every Enogi of Ugu to hunt their all-born warriors. But Imokbagbe had been specially warned in his youth by his parents through the oracle that he should not hunt at the bank of the river Igbaron, especially on a Kendi, a native Sunday, just to avoid an ill-fated circumstances against him. A few years after his parents' advice, Imokbagbe willfully went hunting in Ikende, and his hunting expedition through the forest, they unfortunately found him on the bank of the river, where, to his great surprise, he unexpectedly met a nymph or spirit of Igbaro. At the sight of her, he became utterly speechless and returned home downcast. His mother, who was filled with horror and great distress at the sight of his son, instantly invited so many native doctors to treat her son. None of them were able to cure him. It was at this point the oracle hinted that Obi of Oboro, a skillful physician of his time, could effect cure with all ease. A Imokbagbe was taken to Oboro by his favorite wife, a Mokbolo, before the Ogioboro, who accordingly effected the cure after 2 months. Such speedy recovery induced Imokbagbe to remain under the Obi at Oboro as an occult student studying higher knowledge in medical science for a whole year. Having graduated and was about to return to Ugu, his town, the Ogioboro predicted and told Imokbagbe that he would kill him in the future, but the same fate would surely befall him afterward, as it was a crime for the student to take away the life of his tutor. Imokbagbe replied that he could not pay back his kindness towards him with evil, that he shall forever remain grateful and loyal to his friendship, and made vow with his life never to betray their friendship. Now, there arose a need that might break the covenant Agbogidi made with his master and tutor, Oba Akenbuda. However, wasted no time sent for Agbogidi to come and answer the clarion call of his nation by helping the Benin soldiers to defeat his overmighty warrior that has defied all odds. Special messages were therefore sent repeatedly by the Oba to invite Imokbagbe to Benin in order to undertake the campaign. At first, Imokbagbe refused the undertaking because he recollected the prediction of Ogiobo while he was a patient and occult student under him at Oboro. He pleaded with the Oba that the Obi was his benefactor, therefore he could not hurt him. Also, they had made a vow with his life not to betray him in the course of their life. The Oba promised to reward him greatly. His favorite wife, Imokbolo, was used to manipulate him to agree to this arrangement. After much pressure, however, he agreed and was eventually placed in command of a large army and marched against the Oboro. After terrible fighting by him and his wife, a Mokbolo who acted as a source of supernatural strength. The town was captured and serious welfare. The head of the Ogioboro was sent to the Oba in Benin. According to Igariwa, Mokbagbe was very indignant at the rough was used against him by the Irama. As a result of the altercation regarding the accounts of the punitive expedition, and he was also dissatisfied with the reward given him by the Oba. Subsequently, he returned to Ugo in a bad humor. The Oba tried to persuade him to come back and not take offense, but no response. This disagreement resulted to another war between Ugo and Benin. Imokbagbe declared war against Benin. He started with an outright rebellion by killing Benin's traders who came to Ugo for business transactions. The Oba at first refused to challenge him due to the way he distinguished himself in Benin Oboro conflict. He offered him pardon, but Imokbagbe would not desist from his rebellion and even began to harass Benin. In 1775, the Oba was therefore compelled to dispatch 3 companies of warriors, Oba Kina, Iri Zamete, and Agodo, all dressed in red uniform under the command of the Olobuse. They fought many battles, and during the battle, Agbogidi lost his mother. He massacred countless number of royal soldiers for her funeral. The royal troop then marched against Ugo, and a fierce battle was fought about a mile from the town, and Agbogidi was defeated. But he escaped alive, and being frustrated and hopeless of further success, he went and drowned himself in the river. Igbaron, before he could be overtaken. Thus, the predictions of Ogioboro against Imokbagbe was fulfilled. The short life of Adesuwa resulted to double war for the Benin Empire. This again goes a long way to prove the relevance and place of women in pre-colonial Benin, according to Adodo, because of the event that culminated in the murder of Princess Adesuwa. Females are since then forbidden from presenting kola nut to any guest in Benin Kingdom. At this point, it is conjectured to comprehend that these women, Queen Ide and Princess Adesuwa, had traced their mark in pre-colonial Benin. Queen Ide, who gave her life as a sacrifice for the unification of the Benin monarchy, which was already in a state of disintegration, was a woman who made a mark in kingdom. Through her, the principle of primogeniture, which has become the most stabilizing factor of the Benin monarchy, was established. The sacrifice of Eden cannot be overemphasized in the reconstruction of Benin historiography. That the murder of Princess Adesuwa resulted to 2 major wars that shocked Benin Kingdom, proved the power and relevant place of women in the kingdom. This war repositioned Benin Kingdom as a powerful kingdom and increased their influence in these areas. It's appropriate at this junction to note that the complementary role of women in pre-colonial Benin cannot be overemphasized. Men and